When you understand the game, you stop taking everything so seriously. Alan Watts. Most people live life as if it's a test they must pass. Every decision feels heavy, every outcome a verdict on their worth. They chase achievements, obsess over opinions, and crumble under the weight of expectations, as if the universe is keeping score. But what if the entire thing is a game? Not a meaningless one, but a cosmic play, where the goal was never to win, but to realize there was nothing to win in the first place. Alan Watts taught that the human mind suffers because it clings too tightly to illusions of control. We treat life as a ladder to climb rather than a dance to experience. And in doing so, we miss the very thing we were here to feel. The flow, the spontaneity, the sheer mystery of being alive. Understanding the game doesn't make life empty, it makes it lighter. You stop mistaking every setback as doom and every triumph as salvation. Instead, you start to see them all as movements in a song that was never meant to be rushed. Most people can't see life as a game because they've been trained not to. From childhood, we're taught that life is a race. Get the grades, land the job, earn the title, collect the status symbols. Every step feels like a test, and failure feels fatal. This conditioning keeps us anxious, because when life is only a ladder, every slip feels like a fall to the bottom. The fear of losing, money, status, approval, becomes the silent engine driving almost every choice. Alan Watts said this illusion comes from our obsession with control. We want certainty so badly that we build rigid structures and rules around existence, forgetting that life itself has no fixed script. It flows, it shifts. It was never meant to be locked into a single definition of success. When you start to realize this, the anxiety doesn't just fade, it dissolves. Because you understand, there is no finish line. And there was never anyone keeping score but you. The moment you realize life is a game, winning and losing stop carrying the same weight. You still play, but the fear of failure loosens its grip. Setbacks stop feeling like the end of the world because you see them for what they are. Temporary turns in a story, not a judgment on who you are. And victories, they stop becoming your entire identity because you know they're just moments, not ultimate destinations. Alan Watts explained that suffering often comes from clinging too tightly to outcomes. We worship the highs and curse the lows, not realizing that both are part of the same rhythm. Once you see the rhythm, you can stop fighting it. You can ride the waves instead of drowning beneath them. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop grasping. You can engage fully without losing yourself to the illusion that any single moment defines you. Once you see life as a game, your relationship with control begins to shift. You realize most of the stress you carry comes from trying to force outcomes that were never fully in your hands. We build plans, we obsess over details, we panic when things don't unfold exactly as expected, forgetting that the universe has never promised certainty. It only promised movement. Alan Watts said that the tighter we grip life, the more it slips through our fingers. Like trying to hold water, our need for control creates the very anxiety we're trying to escape. But when you loosen that grip, something strange happens. Opportunities appear. Timing flows more naturally, and the weight on your chest begins to lift. It doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting the play, acting with intention but leaving space for the unknown, because the unknown is where life actually happens. When you realize life is a game, your relationships shift too. You stop expecting others to fulfill impossible roles, to never disappoint you, to always agree with you, to move in perfect harmony with your script. You see that everyone is just playing their own version of the game. Sometimes your paths align beautifully. Other times, they don't. And that's not betrayal. It's simply the flow of the play. Alan Watts often reminded us that most of our pain in relationships comes from clinging to people, to expectations, to ideals that were never promised. When we loosen our grip, we can love more freely, not as possession, but as presence, not as control, but as connection. Ironically, when you stop taking every disagreement or every shift so seriously, the relationships you keep become deeper, less fragile, and more real. When you see life as a game, success and failure stop being chains. They become experiences, not verdicts. You still pursue your goals, but they no longer own you. Success is no longer a desperate grasp for validation, and failure is no longer a death sentence for your worth. Alan Watts taught that the problem isn't ambition, it's attachment. The belief that who you are rises and falls with the outcome of every pursuit. But in the game, there are no final scores. What feels like failure today often turns into the very doorway that leads to something better tomorrow. Once you see this, you stop fearing the fall. You stop worshiping the peak. You start walking with more curiosity than desperation, knowing every twist, every turn is just another move in the dance. And when the stakes feel lighter, ironically, you start winning more often because you're no longer paralyzed by fear of losing. The deeper this understanding sinks in, the lighter your life becomes. The constant urgency fades, not because you stop caring, but because you stop clinging. You move through your days with a different rhythm. Work feels less like a battlefield and more like a practice. Setbacks become lessons, not punishments. Even uncertainty stops feeling like a threat because you understand it's not a mistake. It's the nature of the game itself. Alan Watts often said that when you see the play clearly, you gain a freedom most people never touch. The freedom to be fully present. You're no longer living only for the next milestone or replaying the past for clues. You actually start to be where you are. And that presence, that simple act of not being consumed by the chase, becomes the very thing that makes life feel rich, even when nothing extraordinary is happening. In the end, understanding the game doesn't make life meaningless. It makes it vivid. You stop drowning in the fear of missteps and start dancing with the unknown. Seeing every rise and fall as part of a pattern that was never meant to be perfect, only experienced. Alan Watts believed that true liberation isn't escaping life, but realizing its fluid nature. When you let go of the illusion of control, when you stop treating every twist as a personal judgment, you finally meet life as it is, unpredictable, fleeting, and full of moments that can only be lived, not conquered. This doesn't make you careless. It makes you fearless. You still care deeply. You still strive, love, and create. But you no longer shatter when things change because you know they always will. And in that knowing, you find the one thing everyone's chasing but few ever touch. Peace in the middle of it all.